The Genesee Legislature will meet in regular session on Wednesday, June 10th, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Because of the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic and the state and federal bans on large meetings or gatherings, and pursuant to Governor Cuomo's executive order suspending the open meetings law, the Genesee County Legislature meeting will be held electronically via Zoom video conference. Privilege of the floor is available to members of the public in accordance with Legislature Rule Number 22. A person other than a county legislator may request permission to address the legislature on any matter to be considered at the session. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes.
Thanks.
Email pam.legrew@co.genesee.ny.us by 5 p.m. or use the chat feature that provide your name and agenda item.
Talking to me.
Minutes of the meeting will be posted on the Genesee County website legislature page. Legislator Young offered to assist with the audit, and the prayer will be offered by Legislator Dibble, followed by the pledge. Legislator Dibble, please.
Let us pray. God of many names, lover of all peoples, we pray for peace in our nations and in our world. We pray for all who have an awesome responsibility of power and decision making. We pray for the innocent victims of violence and war. Lead us and all the peoples of the world from death to life, from falsehood to truth. Lead us from despair to hope, from fear to trust. Lead us from hate to love, from war to peace. Let peace with justice for all fill our hearts, our world, our universe. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Legislator Dibble. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In addition to our regular meeting tonight, I will be opening a public hearing on the requested modification to Agriculture District Number 4 of the addition of 33 acres in the town of Byron. All persons who wish to speak will be heard. Also, I'm opening a public hearing on local law introductory number 1, year 2020, with regard to extending the imposition of mortgage recording tax within the county of Genesee. All persons who wish to speak will be heard. I would ask our legislature clerk to please call the roll.
Legislator Yonker,
Present.
Dibble,
Present.
Young,
Present.
Torrey,
Here.
Dalio,
Here.
Clattenburg,
Here.
Mayha.
Present.
Thank you. Proclamations and commendations this evening, please.
Legislator Torrey has a proclamation to be presented for June is Dairy Month.
Okay, I'll read the proclamation. Then I see we have quite a few representatives from the dairy industry. So if we want to give them a moment to talk, they can speak when I'm finished here. This proclamation recognizes June as Dairy Month. Whereas the dairy industry has contributed to the development and prosperity of our community since the earliest formation of Genesee County. And whereas since 1937, the rich history of dairy production and its producers has been recognized across our great nation in an effort to savor the natural goodness in one of the most wholesome agricultural products. And whereas dairy farmers and dairy workers strive to produce wholesome dairy milk, which is used to make delicious dairy products like yogurt, cheese, butter, sour cream, and ice creams that provide health benefits and valuable nutritional benefits to residents locally, regionally, and globally. And whereas in 2014, the fourth graders at Byron Bergen Elementary School began the push and later saw signed into law the recognition of yogurt as New York State's official snack. And whereas the dairy industry in Genesee County is a significant contributor to the economy of the county, its bread and butter, allowing our landscape, citizens, and businesses to flourish. And whereas Genesee County's dairy producers have suffered huge economic losses during the COVID-19 pandemic, and yet continue to produce high quality, nutritious food for our struggling nation. And now be it resolved that the Genesee County Legislature does hereby proclaim the month of June 2020 as Dairy Month, and extend our thanks to the dedicated men and women who produce world-class dairy products enjoyed nationwide. Signed by Chairman Rochelle Stein and attested to by myself, Legislator District 6. So if we have anybody that'd like to speak, I see we have a lot of the dairy maids and Farm Bureau representatives.
Natasha Sutherland here, representing Genesee County Farm Bureau, if I may have the floor.
It's all yours.
As a representative of not only Genesee County Farm Bureau, but the other dairy farmers in the county, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you for recognizing June is Dairy Month. During a time when we are all asking each other for help, this county has seen tremendous effort, not just by producers, but also the processors of dairy for each other. And I think it is recognition well earned that this kind of happened at a perfect moment, you know, that we can stop and say, hey, thank you, dairy, but also thank you to each other during this time, you know, when support is so needed, when industry is finally reopening, when people are getting maybe a glimpse of getting back to a normal life, to take a moment and say thank you for the people who worked continuously through this. So thank you, Legislature, for recognizing June as Dairy Month.
So if we could have the Dairy Princess that was just recently crowned, please unmute, introduce yourself, and share with us some words, please.
Hi, I'm Maya Worth, and I'm 17 years old. I'm a junior at Elvis Central School. I was the Dairy Ambassador for 5 years, and I am honored to be this year's Dairy Princess. I have also participated in the Beef and Dairy Club in 4-H for the past 9 years. I am honored to be speaking on behalf of the Genesee County Dairy Court today. The court and I work to represent the dairy industry in Genesee County and to help consumers understand the hard work that goes into producing dairy products and all the nutritional value it holds for us. I joined this program because I have always loved teaching people the importance about agriculture and especially dairy. Dairy is extremely important for our health because it provides a unique variety of nutrients that our body needs. All dairy products hold a different amount of nutrients. For example, 1 glass of milk contains 30% of calcium, 24% of vitamin D, and plenty of protein. Also, cheese contains high amounts of vitamin A, B12, and K2. But we cannot forget about everyone's favorite summer snack, ice cream. Ice cream has strengthening calcium and other nutrients. The Dairy Court and I are looking for opportunities to educate our county and many others about the importance of getting this 3 servings a day. 3 servings of dairy helps strengthen the body in many ways. It helps reduce heart problems and diabetes. This year we are saddened that we cannot participate in the activities we were able to do in the past, like kinder farming, which is one of our favorite events of the year. And we cannot forget about fair. All of us are saddened about the fair not taking place this year. However, we are happy that we can still find ways to educate everyone by sharing videos and having discussions about the importance of dairy. Our dairy court's biggest goal has always been to educate the public about how hard our dairy farmers work every day. It is important for us to continue supporting them. They have always been the heart and backbone of our county. Though this year is very difficult, they still manage to provide delicious dairy products. Now, please allow me to introduce my dairy court. Our dairy ambassadors are Georgia Luft, Caroline Seiberts, Maggie Winspear, Amelia and Jillian Brewer. And our dairy maids include Caroline Luft, Annalise Seiberts, Chloe and Claire Lamb. We are grateful for this opportunity to be here with you today. Please let us know if we can assist you in any way with promoting the dairy industry. Now, please join us in a milk toast to our dairy farmers. Cheers! Thank you.
I brought mine, Dairy Queen.
Go. Thank you so much, Maya, Georgia, Annalise, Caroline, Maggie, Chloe, Claire, and I think I left off 2 names from the Brewer family, but thank you so much for the work that you are doing and the industry that you have chosen to represent. Your work is very meaningful to us. Legislator Tory, do you have anything else to add?
No, just thank you for all attending tonight and all that you do.
Thank you
Madam
very
Chair,
much. Go ahead, Legislator Juncker, please.
Yeah, I just think this is fantastic to see all these familiar faces here tonight, and a special thanks on behalf of the legislature and the dairy farmers for you guys stepping up and being advocates. The Maids Farm Bureau, the Princesses, this recognition is very important. We know that we have some of the most talented dairy farmers in the nation right here in our county, and we shouldn't forget we have some of the largest and best processors right here in Genesee County, and they really are the drivers for the job growth and the economy here. It's well-deserved recognition. So thank you for being advocates.
Thank you, Legislator Juncker. Any other legislators? Legislator Clattenburg.
I want to echo my fellow colleagues' sentiments and congratulations to these young women and their leadership and their ability to come out and speak publicly on behalf of a cause that they're very passionate about. And I only wish that we were there with them so we could have our ice cream. I'm really missing that this year. But we'll get back together again next year. But thank you, young ladies, for all you're doing to promote your passion.
Thank you.
Thank you again for joining us. This is one of the highlights that we look forward to every year. Thank you very much. I would ask now for an approval of the prior meeting's minutes, please. From May 27th, Legislator Dibble, thank you. And a second, Legislator Tory, thank you. Comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Dibble,
Yes.
Tory,
Yes.
Juncker,
Yes.
Young, Stein,
Yes.
Dalio,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
Yes.
Mayha.
Yes.
The minutes have passed. I'd ask for any committee and special assignment reports, please. And I can't see everybody, so if you would just speak up, I would appreciate it.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair,
Legislator Mayha.
the Office of the Aging Advisory Council met last Wednesday, and we had a presentation by Maureen Esterbrook, who was on staff, and she gave us a overview of her responsibilities, which include the handyman program, which the Office of the Aging coordinates, the home improvement program, transportation, HEAP, and housing needs for seniors. And I think many of you know, there's an email sent out that the Paul complex down Leroy is currently taking applications for those qualified individuals. This is an over 55 complex based upon need and income. And they're going to use some type of lottery system to select those individuals. It's a 60 unit facility down there. And I'm sure that the number of persons in need are going to be far greater than what they have as far as units.
Thank you, Legislator Mayha. Any other legislators, please?
This is Mary Ann Shelley. I just wanted to let everyone know that the board of the Holland Land Office Museum is formalizing their plans to reopen as soon as they're able to, and they'll be socially distancing and adapting their exhibits so that they can do so in a safe way.
Thank you, Legislator Clapper. Any other legislators, please? Hearing none, we'll go on to communications and petitions, please.
None tonight.
Thank you. Legislator comments, please.
Chairman,
Yes.
I just want to comment on the march that was held in Batavia over the weekend. I want to commend the Sheriff's Department and all law enforcement for the way they cooperated to ensure the safety of the public that participated. And I want to thank all the organizers and a great job of a peaceful protest downtown, having their constitutional rights upheld. And I just want to give everybody thanks that had a hand in organizing that and having it come off so successfully.
Thank you very much for that. That's greatly noted, appreciated. Hopefully will enable community healing to begin, and we'll build on those messages that were heard and delivered. Thank you. Other comments, please. I would just like to add that from the control room, we do have some pretty good metrics going into the end of the week, and we have received guidance for the phase 3 industries. However, we learned at the opening of phase 2 that we are not in charge, but we will wait to hear from the governor, the phase 3 opening at his announcement time. So we are doing a great job in this community following those guidelines. And we just ask you as our citizens to continue to model terrific behavior. Enjoy the fact we are being able to do some gatherings and that businesses are back to being open. And we are ever so grateful for your patience, your tolerance, and we look forward for better days ahead. Thank you. County Manager's report, please.
Well, following up on that, as we talked in the Finger Lakes control room today, there are no absolutes with regard to anything coming from phase 2 going to phase 3, which, as Shelley indicated, is hopefully within the next 48 to 72 hours, but there are no guarantees. And also with regard to, as we always refer people, particularly our business people and our private sector, our business owners, keep going to the New York State Forward website, do your attestations, put your plans together that are kept locally and filed on behalf of the entire business community and business sector, because that's what the state is looking for. And that's basically what they are requiring as people are going in and doing their attestations, but also in preparation of each of the phases. One thing we heard about today on terms of phase 4 is it may not be quite as quick as the 2 weeks we've seen in between the first 2 and hopefully phase 3 with regard to what they're doing to prepare for that and the experience of phase 3, which is basically bringing restaurants and food services back and potentially other subsectors of the private economy, which again are all announced and or dealt with by virtue of what the governor and his staff are doing as far as those daily press conferences and announcements. I believe we're up to executive order number 39 as of today at approximately 5:40. But again, that is something that, again, our control room has been very responsive in terms of taking inquiries, requests, and submittals up to the second floor and to Albany with regard to clarifications and things that, again, are coming from our local business people and questions that they can't necessarily find answers to on that New York Forward State website. On a related note, county government of Genesee has been coming back gradually over the last week or so with regard to, again, how we are part of the phase 2/3 readiness model. All of our departments, all of our buildings, particularly the two that are still on hold indefinitely while the state decides what to do, which is the DMV and the courts. We're doing as much as we can, and our staff are doing as much as they can in those buildings, but in those activity areas with regard to moving caseload, dealing with caseloads. Obviously, Mike and Leslie and company dealing with the Dropbox, also the mail, and even some of the dealer work that's coming in. So again, we are going about it very carefully, both for the protection of our own employees, but also for the public as we prepare for more of an on-site presence, over the next, say, 2 to 3 weeks, or whatever it is that is clarified by the state with regard to the public sector in general. And then last but not least, again, we are looking at and hopeful that sometime within the next 7 to 10 days, Washington will finally coalesce around some part of a federal stimulus package, which again, based on our newly adopting us, Congressman Tom Reed in the 23rd District has been advocating for us, as have our 2 U.S. senators and almost the entire New York State delegation, for direct assistance to local governments across the entire spectrum, counties, cities, towns, and villages, with regard to the impacts of the downturn in the economy, COVID-19 expenses, and then a profile of potential revenue dislocation with regard to the 2019 revenue profile versus the 2020 profile. Again, we have been able to tap into that resource as far as Tom Reed and his people are concerned, providing us with updates, giving us the opportunity to do advocacy, and also to advocate on behalf of our own counties in New York State with regard to funding that has already been received by the state of New York, particularly the Medicaid FMAP money that came in FedStim 1, which again for Genesee County represents the prospect of a $460,000 reduction over the balance of this calendar year in our weekly shares of Medicaid. And so again, that's something that even the congressman helped us put together. I think we do have a resolution on this evening with regard to that in treaty. But again, the idea is to keep up the pressure and make it constant and make it consistent across the state. That money's got our name on it, and it should be put to our use and our ability to start even just treading water with regard to the 2020 county budget. That's it, Madam Chairperson.
Are there any questions for our county manager?
Madam Chair, just a comment.
Legislator Mayha?
It'll be interesting to see or to note 2 weeks down the road whether there's going to be an increase in the COVID-19 infections based upon all the gatherings and protests that have been taking place the last week and a half. I did note a lot of them involved in the Batavia March were wearing masks, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, that's in fact, Gary, that is one of the actual advisories that the governor himself came out with within the last 7 to 10 days with regard to people being able who attend those rallies, demonstrations, whatever, being able to go to these regional drive-through sites and be able to be tested for free, as far as how the state again is trying to tamp down the curve, and again for us in this Finger Lakes region to keep all the metrics, and then the 2 additional nuances to metrics that the governor added, all of those to stay in the green, and that really involves testing.
Thank you, Jay. Any other comments or questions from our legislators, please? Terrific. On to the resolutions. Tonight, after resolution number 1 for the swearing in of our new legislator. And so with that, resolution number 1.
Appointment, Genesee County Legislator, District Number 1, Alabama and Oakfield. Approval of. Legislator Clattenburg offered the resolution.
I have a second from Legislator Young. Comments or questions? Legislator Clattenburg.
I just want to welcome Chad to our group, and I'm very pleased to be working with him, and I want to thank him for his service.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Legislator Plattenberg,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Torrey,
Yes.
Dalio,
Yes.
Meha,
yes,
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble.
Yes.
Resolution number 1 has passed, and if the clerk could please administer the oath.
The county attorney is prepared to do that. So they are all together, Chad and Kevin Earl will do that right now.
All right, this is Kevin, and I'm in the same room, socially distanced with Chad, and I'm going to ask him to put his left hand on the Bible, raise his right hand, and say, "I do solemnly swear that I will
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Legislator, District Number 1,
of Legislator District Number 1
according to the best of my ability."
according to the best of my abilities.
Okay, and then I'll have him sign his card there. And upon his signature, I will notarize it, and he has been sworn in and is now able to act on behalf of the county.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Very nice.
Congratulations.
welcome aboard.
Thank you.
This is one of the nice things we get to do, Chad. Welcome. And for District Number 1, you are fully represented in the county legislature once again. Thank you for this candidate and now legislator. Resolution number 2, please.
Contract renewal, Office for the Aging, Personal Emergency Response Units, approval of. Legislator Dalio offered the resolution.
I have a second from Legislator Torrey. Comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Legislator Dalio,
Yes.
Torrey,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
Yes.
Meha,
Yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein.
Yes. Resolution 2 has passed. Resolution 3, please.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion to amend this.
Legislator Young, you have the floor.
We had a last minute notification of a price increase for this particular resolution. It'll be an extra 10 cents per meal. And I believe Pam has written the resolution as such, but I know an amendment motion is necessary to make that change, and I will do that now.
I'll second the amendment.
Thank you, Legislator Young, for the amendment, and a second from Legislator Yunker. Are there any comments or questions in regards to this? The roll.
Pam?
Legislator Young, thank you.
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Torrey,
Yes.
Dalio,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
Yes.
Meha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker.
Yes.
The amendment to the resolution has passed, and now for the amended resolution number 3, indicating the price increase of 10 cents per meal, but not to exceed the total contract of $310,909. We have a Motion offered by legislator Young and a second by legislator Gilio. Comments or questions, please? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Young,
Yes.
Gilio,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
yes,
Maha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Tori.
yes,
Resolution 3 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 4, please.
2020 Salary Schedule Amendment, Department of Social Services, approval of. Legislator Tori offered the resolution.
I have a second from legislator Clattenburg. Comments or questions, please? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Tori,
yes,
Plattenberg,
yes,
Maha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Gilio.
Yes.
Resolution 4 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 5, please.
Grant acceptance, Health Department Public Health Emergency Preparedness Program. Legislator Dalio offered the resolution.
I have a second from legislator Maha. Comments or questions, please? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Dalio,
Yes.
Maha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Tori,
yes,
Plattenberg.
yes,
Resolution 5 has you. Resolution 6, please.
Contract Health Department Lab Testing, approval of. Legislator Young offered the resolution.
I have a second from legislator Yunker. Comments or questions, please? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Young,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Tori,
yes,
Gilio,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
yes,
Maha,
yes,
Klutzbach.
Yes.
Resolution 6 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 7, please.
Grant acceptance, Health Department Public Health Drinking Water Enhancement Program, approval of. Legislator Tori offered the resolution.
I have a second from resolution legislator Dibble. Thank you. Comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Tori,
yes,
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Gilio,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
yes,
Maha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker.
Yes.
Resolution 7 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 8, please.
2020 Budget Amendment, Community Mental Health Services, Computer Equipment, approval of. Legislator Maha offered the resolution.
And I have a second from legislator Young. Thank you. Comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Maha,
yes,
Young,
Is that Young?
yes,
Yes. Sorry.
Stein,
Yes.
Tori,
yes,
Dalio,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble.
Yes.
Resolution 8 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 9, please.
2020 salary schedule amendment, Job Development Bureau, approval of. Legislator Tory offered the resolution.
And I have a second from Legislator Delio. Thank you. Comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Tory,
Yes.
Delio,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
yes,
Meha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
yes,
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
yes,
Stein.
Yes. Resolution 9 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 10.
Contract agreement, Planning Department, 2020 Comprehensive Plan Update and Recreation Plan, approval of. Legislator Meha offered the resolution.
And I have a second from Legislator Plattenberg. Thank you. Comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Meha,
yes,
Plattenberg,
yes,
Klutzbach,
yes,
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
yes,
Stein,
Yes.
Tory,
Yes.
Delio.
Yes.
Resolution 10 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 11, please.
Retail lease agreement between the Town of Bergen and the Monroe County Water Authority, approval of. Legislator Yunker offered the resolution.
And I have a second from Legislator Mayhaw. Comments or questions, please? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Yunker,
Yes.
Meha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
yes,
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
yes,
Stein,
Yes.
Tory,
Yes.
Delio,
Yes.
Plattenberg.
yes,
Resolution 11 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 12, please.
Reappointment, Genesee County Industrial Development Agency, DBA, Genesee County Economic Development Center, approval of. Legislator Young offered the resolution.
I have a second from Legislator Dibble. Thank you. Comments or questions, please? Please call the roll.
Legislator Young,
yes,
Dibble,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Tory,
Yes.
Delio,
Yes.
Plattenberg,
yes,
Meha,
yes,
Yunker,
Abstain.
Klutzbach.
yes,
Resolution 12 has passed. Thank you. I would now like to close the public hearing for Resolution 13, the local law introductory number 1, extending the mortgage recording tax within Genesee County. The public hearing is closed.
Local law introductory number 1 of the year 2020, a local law amending local law number 4 of the year 2017, amending local law number 3 of the year 2015, amending local law number 2 of the year 2013, amending law 2 of the year 2015, amending local law 2 of the year 2009, amending local law 2 of the year 2007, amending local law 6 of the year 2004 with regard to the imposition of a mortgage recording tax within the county of Genesee, adoption of. Legislator Clattenburg offered the resolution.
And I have a second from Legislator Young. Comments or questions, please? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Clattenburg,
yes,
Young,
yes,
Stein,
Yes.
Tory,
Yes.
Delio,
Yes.
Meha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
yes,
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble.
Yes.
Resolution 13 has passed. Thank you. I will now close the public hearing for the Agricultural District's 2020 annual enrollment. The public hearing is closed. Please call the resolution.
Agricultural District's 2020 annual enrollment inclusion request of one parcel to Agricultural District Number 4 in the town of Byron. Legislator Yunker offered the resolution.
And I have a second from Legislator Mayha. Thank you. Comments or questions, please? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Yunker,
Yes.
Mayha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Torrey,
Yes.
Dalio,
Yes.
Plattenberg.
Yes.
Resolution 14 has passed. Thank you. Resolution 15, please.
County audit, June 10th, approval of. Legislator Clattenburg offered the resolution.
And I have a second from Legislator Young. Comments or questions? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Legislator Clattenburg,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Torrey,
Yes.
Dalio,
Yes.
Mayha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble.
Yes.
Resolution 15 has passed. Thank you. Legislator Clattenburg, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules to add a timely resolution that calls on New York State to release enhanced federal Medicaid matching funds to counties.
Thank you. And I have a second from Legislator Yunker. Thank you. Please call.
Legislator Clattenburg,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Torrey,
Yes.
Dalio,
Yes.
Mayha,
yes,
Klutzbach.
Yes.
The Rule 19 has passed. Please call the resolution.
Calling on the state of New York to release enhanced federal Medicaid matching funds to counties and New York City. Legislator Clattenburg offered the resolution.
I have a second from Legislator Young. Comments or questions, please?
Madam Chair, I just want to say that the purpose of the resolution is to implore the governor to release to Genesee County the $460,000 that was given to him by the Congress to distribute to us, and he is not giving it to us. So this is to tell him that we would like our money.
Thank you, Legislator Clattenburg. I appreciate that very much. Other comments or questions? Please call the roll.
Legislator Clattenburg,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Torrey,
Yes.
Dalio,
Yes.
Mayha,
yes,
Klutzbach,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble.
Yes.
Resolution 16 has passed. Thank you. Is there any unfinished business to come before the legislature? Hearing none, I would take a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Legislator Klutzbach, and a second from Legislator Dibble. Please call the roll.
Legislator Klutzbach,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Torrey,
Yes.
Dalio,
Yes.
Clattenburg,
Yes.
Mayha.
yes.
The Genesee County Legislature stands adjourned, and we will call to order a committee of the whole momentarily. Okay, if everyone's ready, we will call to order the committee of the whole. If the clerk could please call the roll of attendees.
Legislator Kletzbach,
Here.
Yonker,
Here.
Dibble, Young,
I'm here.
Stein,
Yes,
Torrey,
Yes, here.
Dalio,
Here.
Clattenburg,
Here.
Mayha.
Here.
thank you. So this evening, we have a committee of the whole to discuss the state of Genesee County Legislature, the state of the budget for Genesee County in regards to what it is we know today, what it is that actions that we have taken to bring us up to date so that we can start to put together plans for the next quarter of our activities here from the county. And so with that, I would like to turn over this meeting to our county manager and budget officer. Thank you, Jay. The floor is yours.
All right, we'll get us started, and then the rest of us will contribute as appropriate. We shared with you some information today with regard to a couple of the questions that are at the top end of what Shelley asked as far as where we are with furloughs and freezes. You have the newest information, the latest information with regard to where those things are right now. At the present time, as parts of our government keep coming back, some are not yet ready, or in some cases, state agencies are not yet telling us that it's okay. We are trying to maximize the benefit of the savings for the people who are furloughed. And the same thing with regard to the strategically frozen positions. And that's why we gave you those two lists today, because you can see literally as of today where those two pieces of activity are, or lack of activity in some cases, as far as how we've come up with the approximately $99,000 worth of frozen savings that are inuring to us every month. And then also with regard to what's going on with regard to now our slightly reduced number of furloughs, again, dealing with each of our departments on an individual basis with regard to, as they're coming back, what their needs are, or in some cases where we may have slightly overindulged with regard to people on furlough. Again, with regard to, in that particular case, making sure that we did no harm to anybody with regard to their status. And again, with the idea that upon 3 days notice, if we need them back, they come back. We're still holding to that. And again, we're looking at potentially taking some of these positions, particularly in the furloughed status, all the way through the first 90 days of what is now the UI benefit, but also the enhanced benefit of $600 a week for those individuals. So that's one of the ways that we're continuing to, shall we say, marshal our resources, containing, what we're doing as far as expenditures are concerned. Because again, as you know, we also continued for those people who are on the furlough, their participation in our healthcare plan, but again, with their individual status of cost sharing with us every payroll or every month, getting a bill for their share of the county monthly healthcare premium. So that is staying in place. Again, we deal with the departments, particularly in terms of the furloughs, where they find a particular circumstance as they're coming back is necessary to change that. But in other cases, we anticipate that we will be able to take these out to the full extent of what this 90-day proviso provides us with, both in terms of savings, but a benefit to the individuals in terms of them not being part of our active workforce at the present time. So any questions or considerations as far as that piece is concerned? Okay, you see as Tim is here, can explain, and I think we all sent you what came out of NISAC and the state with regard to the CHIPS program and the ability to, I guess we'll call it, Tim, a guarantee of 80% of our funding, and how you folks plan. And again, this isn't just for the county. This is for everybody who gets a piece of the CHIPS action, the extreme weather action, and then the supplemental. So, Tim.
Well, the latest news on CHIPS, extreme weather, and Pave New York is that we did receive the runs, which is the listing per county, per municipality of what each of us will receive. The runs were issued at 100% with letters forthcoming from DOT on terms of direction on how to implement the rollover from 2019, as well as the limit, the restriction, the 80% restriction that Jay referred to. Basically, they're telling us you can expect a 20% haircut on our normal CHIPS funding. And if the federal government comes up with a stimulus program or some other type of bailout that can affect the state and the counties, that they would allow us to spend the remaining 20%. So as of right now, we are planning on getting reimbursed to 100% of 80% of what we would normally get. So I actually went back and looked at my 2020 capital plan that I put together a few months ago based on our normal budget. And I actually at that time had only put together a program that was basically about 85% of what we are actually receiving. So I'm not going to have to do a whole lot of cuts to get us to the 80% number. In fact, I'm pretty confident that just the decrease in asphalt prices that we've seen since the COVID scare started, that we will be able to make the 80% without having to reduce our program at all. If we do get the 20% forecasted based on any stimulus, we would have to us available about $350,000 in extra funding that I would really probably plan on using as chip seal, just to try to cover as many miles of road as I can to prepare us for what I feel is going to be a fairly sparse 2021 budget in capital, probably from the state level. So I'm not real confident personally that there will be any type of a bailout. I hope there is, but just me trying to read the tea leaves in Washington and what I've been able to find through our national associations and whatnot, I'm not real confident that's going to happen. So right now I'm continuing to plan on sticking with the 80% for now. I do have an adjusted plan. It's obviously got a lot of detail in terms of the costs and tons of asphalt and things like that. I can share it with the legislature if there's any interest in that. I just didn't want to bury you with too much information.
Tim, those would be changes to the PowerPoint you showed us a couple weeks ago?
No, this would actually be the capital plan that I use in-house for my budgeting.
Your spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's a 2-page spreadsheet. I can easily send it out if people are interested in looking at that.
Tim, I'm just interested in this new information, which seems to be, coming in dribs and drabs from Albany. Will this then also allow for the amount of shared services for road work that we normally do within the county? Would you imagine that shared service program of everyone helping everyone else to get the paving jobs done will start again?
Yeah, it never really stopped. We've even the last few weeks we've been out. I can tell you we were out helping several towns this week: Alabama, Alexander. We offered help to Leroy and Stafford. I don't see that dropping off at all. I do know what I've seen from the town level is that they are making adjustments in their town budgets, their town funded budgets, capital wise, which mostly affects the highway department. So a lot of the towns have dialed back on equipment purchases and even paving programs and whatnot, based more so on our sales tax or the revenue sharing change that we've that we've planned for them. They will still continue to spend their CHIPS money. I will tell you that the town of Bethany laid off their entire highway department for the whole summer, so there will not be obviously any opportunity to do any equipment sharing or labor sharing with them. They effectively laid off their entire highway department minus the highway superintendent for the months of June, July, and August. So we won't see anybody from Bethany until September. We do have a mowing contract with them that they've claimed they will honor and allow people to come back and mow for a few days to catch up on our summer cutting that happens in July. But I'm a little nervous that won't happen, and we might have to redirect our mowing crew down there to take care of that. But I've gotten a fairly confident response from Barb Swerka in the town of Bethany that that'll happen. So it's really the impact to the towns on the revenue sharing side from what we normally provide them is really where the impact is. But again, they'll have their CHIPS, 80% of their CHIPS money, and we'll be able to work with them as much as we have in the past, I think.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Shelley, let me also segue back to the first item. At the end of last month, we also gave you a profile of potential revenue changes and expense changes within the current operating budget, which net for us right now with the things that we've done in that listing, which you all got a copy of, saves us about $1.4 million at the present time with regard to the 2020 county operating budget, both with regard to factoring in what we see as a potential change as far as various revenues, but also in terms of reducing or controlling expenses. That is prior to what may or may not happen with the state aid cuts, and also with regard to the changes in our sales tax proceeds, which again will come up very quickly in the next couple lines, queries that were put together for this evening's meeting.
Thank you.
So to that end, capital projects. Again, Tim already, indicated he's got, what's going on with regard to his listing, and you'll get to see a new profile from that. Matt, if you want to talk about where we are with the jail pause and the fact what that represents for us, and then anything else that we've also in terms of the thinking of with Parks and Forest, even with regard to other things that would be classified as capital versus asset acquisitions.
Well, I'll let Tim talk on the capital projects. As far as the jail, I know we're going to get into a good discussion on Monday after public service in another committee of the whole to talk about where we stand with the jail as being paused right now, and probably paused for a while yet on the jail project. Asset acquisitions, we've been able to scale back a significant portion of those that were part of that $1.4 million savings. We got about $100,000 in asset acquisitions that we've been able to scale back, and that $1.4 million is these are all general fund savings and cost cuts, and that we've identified a couple of additional revenues. The capital projects would not be anything that would directly impact, for the most part, the general fund, except for asset acquisition. That is going to be a direct savings into our general fund that will flow down to our fund balance. As far as the capital projects, Tim's been putting a lot of thought and examination to those, and I know he's deferred some of those to at least 2021, and I'm sure we'll be examining those as we sit down to look what's available for 2021, probably deferring a lot of those out to 2022 as well. So I definitely would defer to Tim on the capital project side.
So I went through our capital projects, all of our open capital projects today, and updated balances and whatnot. I just sent an email out to the legislature group, so you'll be able to see the most recent picture on all of our capital projects. We've already either deferred or eliminated close to $1 million in capital projects for 2020. The only two that are moving forward at this time are in terms of new ones for facilities, are the fire alarm here at the highway garage, which I've got on public service for an award to Johnson Controls to replace our system here, which is fairly critical. And then the fire alarm control panel 5130 Main Street, which has already been awarded and under construction. Those two projects together represent about $113,000 in expenditure. All of the other projects that are on the books and moving forward all have state and federal aid components to them. There's really nothing that is strictly county funded that's moving ahead at this point. There's obviously a lot of things that we would need to do, but we just aren't really in a spot to do it. One example would be we had the chiller replacement for the courts facility on the docket. We put that off, deferred it to 2021. And we just recently, within the last few weeks of warm weather, had a valve leaking on that, and it's about a $7,000 repair just for the valve. And obviously, that would have been a unit that would have been completely replaced. So there is a little bit of cost in terms of deferring projects. You know, you start putting good money after bad type of thing. But looking forward to 2021, we've already deferred about $600,000 or $700,000 worth of projects there. And we are just now working on our capital program, updating our capital program. Felipe and his folks at planning just sent out a request to update our plans to get those in soon. So we're going through it again, and we'll probably even look at deferring a few more things if we can. So I think at this point we've got it scaled back about as far as I really am comfortable scaling back. I think anything further puts us in a bad spot in terms of some exposure on either liability or facility problems. And obviously we'll get further into discussion on the jail on Monday, but even the existing facility, the existing jail we have, there's a cost obviously to put off the new jail for very long. There's costs that are needed in that critical facility that we have now if we keep that open for any length of time. And we'll talk about all that stuff on Monday. There was one other item I was going to talk about. I've lost my train of thought. I'll think about it. If I think about it, I'll chime back in.
Thank you. Further questions on capital projects, folks?
Okay.
Oh,
Go ahead, Tim.
The McLaren Road. Just wanted to give a quick update on the McLaren Road Bridge, since that was a kind of a hot topic, and it is a capital project. We were on tap to get federal aid for that bridge. It is about a $1.6 million project, and it currently has already $50,000 of local money committed to match the local share on the design phase of that. We have two active red flags on that bridge that need to be fixed within a few weeks, and in trying to balance the need of keeping the bridge open to limit the impact of local agriculture, as well as putting money into a bridge that's going to get replaced within 2 years on federal aid. We have made the decision and have pulled the trigger to basically return the federal aid and use what we had for local match to replace the superstructure. We actually just opened bids today on some bridge decking that will allow us to replace the bridge decking and use beams that we have here in the highway yard left over from a previous bridge. We should be able to replace the entire superstructure of that bridge for what we have in terms of our local share. That'll buy us probably 20 to 30 years of life on that bridge. We have met with Dick Berry out at the site. Greg was with us, went through the plan of attack. We're basically going to close the bridge in the month of July, use our local bridge crew to replace the superstructure, and then hopefully have it back open for him to start hauling in corn silage in August. So that's our plan of attack right now. It seems kind of crazy that we could basically get a bridge for $50,000 versus a federal aid project of $1.6 million, but that's the truth of it, and we're going to move ahead and hopefully have that bridge back open in August.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Wondering, Tim, how's that stabilization project on Hickox Road going?
It should be wrapped up tomorrow morning. They were in the GSI, the contractor we had on tap. It took them way longer than we anticipated. We had originally just planned on a closure for Friday and Saturday, and they didn't, because of some issues on site with utilities, they didn't even really get started until Monday. And they've been working out there. They were actually returning some of the equipment to the yard here late this afternoon, and I suspect they'll have the rest of it out of the roadway tomorrow, and we'll be able to reopen the road. But right now, the side of the embankment looks kind of like a pin cushion. There's a ton of hydraulic nails that have been put in place. The mesh has been put down, and all it's really waiting is just for us to come in and topsoil and hydroseed. But the project went really well, so that's completed. And we also completed and reopened the Dry Bridge Road where we had the sheet pile. That bridge had been closed most of the winter. That work's been opened. We opened that up a few weeks ago, right before Memorial Day weekend. So both projects that we did early this spring have been moved along well, and we're in a good spot for both of them.
Thank you. Probably getting into next meeting's agenda anyway.
Thank you, Legislator Dibble. Further questions, comments? Okay, Jake.
Yep, revenue sharing or revenue distribution or dislocation with regard to revenue streams. Obviously, you know, as Tim indicated, there is a lot of concern and or maybe skepticism with regard to FedStim 4. For us, obviously, this also involves whether or not with regard to the sales tax proceeds, and as you can see with regard to you know, our present agreement with regard to the city of Batavia for 40 years, whatever hit we take, they'll take the same. You saw Scott's report within the last week with regard to the last payment we got, and how far that down was, about 35.95%, correct, Scott? Or thereabouts. And we are net total of about a 5.47% decrease compared to last year at this time. And again, that is reflective of anything that has not come yet with regard to what the governor is going to do. We continue to hear from NISAC as to whether or not when he makes his first play of what are 3 opportunities for he to make reductions. That now is, so to speak, tied to whether or not there is a FedStim 4 and what he would be required to do under a maintenance of effort to not necessarily just arbitrarily pass through his cuts and keep a lot of that funding and then have us take an even further change or reduction with regard to our revenue stream and obviously one of our top 3 revenue sources at this point. Question also is whether or not the legislative body, now that you do not have an absolute 2020 commitment with regard to revenue distribution, is to do anything in lieu of that with regard to these reduced sales tax proceeds on a percentage basis, also with regard to what may or may not come from the as far as a potential 10 or 20% reduction in state aid, which again, if you remember, is about a $17 million total package that we have. So adjusted from there. But Matt, why don't you go ahead and sort of provide some nuance, shall we say?
Yes, Jay and I we've been talking a lot about this, and it's a balancing act. I understand with the legislature, we don't have a crystal ball, and the key is trying to decide what we can share with the information we have before us. And in talking to Shelley a little bit, I want to know when we'll be in a position to determine if there can be a second quarter distribution or what kind of distribution of revenue that we can do. We can create a resolution that kind of tries to cover other bases if that was something that the legislature wanted us to try to craft. We don't have a crystal ball, and I get that, and I understand the difficulty there is, but at this point in time, if we wanted to craft a resolution that changed the base year. Right now, the previous resolution had the base year of 2018, and it was a solid 2018 sales tax distribution, and it was a static number that didn't have the ability to go down, and that was obviously something that couldn't stay in place. We could have it structured so that it will go down at the same level as the county goes down, but then allow for all of the additional wordings that we had in place that would allow for the reduction for AIM cost shifts. It would allow for water surcharge equalization. It would allow for, and then we could always have a catch-all wording in there that would allow for state aid reductions. And it would be, we could structure it so it's fluid enough that we could weather all of the currently known problems that are facing us in regards to, again, the sales tax reductions, the state aid reductions, the cost shifts such as AIM, and potential Medicaid cap implications that are always floating around by the governor's office. That is something that we can, in the manager's office, working with the county attorney, if directed, try to put something forward in draft mode and circulate to the legislators. But we are, as far as having more information at our disposal than we had a month ago or 2 months ago. We have it a little bit in the sense that we can actually see what sales tax is doing over the last couple of months. But we can't predict with great accuracy what that's going to continue to go on in the future. We still don't know what the state is going to do to us with state aid, which is a huge unknown to us. And we also don't know what STIM 4, if that's going to happen or not. Again, another huge unknown. So as far as what we know more now that we knew a month or two ago, there's basically 3 areas. 2 of the 3 are still as murky as ever with state aid reduction and with STIM 4. And the only thing we do have available to us to analyze is what has come in over the last couple of sales tax payments. So it's provided a little.
Madam Chair, can I comment?
Yes. I'm not Madam Chair, but sorry.
You don't sound like Madam Chair. Did you say okay, Shelley?
I sure did. Go ahead.
Okay. Why would we even be considering this at this point? Why would we even be bringing it up with the whole reason we put ourselves in this position is because we knew nothing. We know a little more, but we still know nothing. Why do we think it's important to craft some document with ifs and ands and whereases, and we don't know where things are going to go? I don't think that's a crime. Let's move forward, and when we do know more, whether that's a month or 2 months or 5 months down the road, then we'll figure it out from there.
Andrew,
so I'll ask the question again. Why would we bring it up? Sorry.
It was asked of us to look at and to have this as part of your conversation this evening. It's plain and simple as that.
Okay.
Technically, the second quarter distribution would be, I believe, at the end of July. Is that correct, Scott? And I believe also
about probably the 4th Friday in July.
Right. And we have ostensibly 3 more potential payments coming from the state before that time frame.
I think 2 more.
2 more?
There's 2 more with 2 little ones, 2 big ones and 2 little ones.
Okay.
But Andrew, one of the things is, as Jay said, and that's why my response, I'm being very clear to state that there's 3 major points that we really kind of want to know. And within one of those points was 3 measurement periods that we have for the state aid cut. But 2 of the 3 are still as murky as ever. We don't know what's going to happen to us with state aid. We don't know what's going to happen to us with if there's going to be a STIM 4. But we do have a little bit of a snippet of what's going on with sales tax, and it's not good. But so I definitely wanted to make sure that I qualify with what I'm saying is that we can be creative as you want us to be. And so at the direction of the legislature, we can try to create something that keeps our options open. But as far as where we are today compared to where we were a month or 2 ago, we're not in a lot better position information wise.
Again, I think, and it's just my opinion, I don't know how others feel, but it would be a mistake to craft another document that we don't know whether or not we can live up to or not. That's my thoughts.
I share those same sentiments as Andrew, just so for the record.
Thank you. Any other legislators want to weigh in? Legislator Mayha?
Hey, I have a question on these measurement periods. We know the first measurement period ended April 30th.
Correct.
And the next one is what, the end of July, or is it?
End of June. End of June.
Does that mean the first one has ended then if he doesn't do anything?
No. Nope. The only thing that happens is, Gary, once he comes out with what he and the budget director determined to be the, so to speak, cuts or changes to state aid, the state legislature has a 10-day window, and they are still technically in session to come back with I guess we'll call it an oppositional document or changes. Other than that, what would then be in his presentation becomes basically automatic, and then he's already into right now his second measurement period that again unless the state legislature comes back, those things become, based on the way they pass that budget, become automatic with regard to what the implications are, excuse me, for all of us at the public government sector below the state of New York.
Gary, I don't think, as far as the measurement periods, at the end of the day, effectively, they mean much. He can cut for as long as he wants, as far back as he wants. He could do what he wants. I mean, there's a 10-day window the legislature can act on, but unless they've got a way to find money elsewhere off of some other tree or print it somewhere else, they're probably going to go through these cuts. And you're right, we were past the first measurement period. We're quickly heading towards the second measurement period. But he has the ability, as we've seen from these, control room that he supposedly was trying to give some power to, which really weren't there. He put these measurement periods up there to sound good, but at the end of the day, if he needs to get a certain dollar amount out of counties to help balance his budget, he's going to get it.
So he could wait to the end of this calendar year and hit us pretty hard, and we don't even know till then.
That is correct. And the one thing that has, from what, again, even the control room people have said, and his representatives on another call who are in Albany with him, has indicated that the only reason he hasn't done this first shot is because the federal stimulus is putting together language that would potentially restrict some of what his regular plan would be if he does a 10 or 20% with regard to him and the state of New York itself not getting anything towards their $13 billion deficit. That is what is giving him, pardon the expression, pause on not just instituting what he's already been given authority to do.
Madam Chairman?
Legislator Dale?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I agree. I mean, we can't trust our governor there because the money that came from the first stimulus, we haven't even got that yet. And as Matt alluded to, he can come back and we put ourselves in a predicament saying, I just don't I just don't trust the guy. And the thing is our money all hinges on him. And for me to promise somebody else that I can pay you when the other guy isn't going to pay me, I don't like it. I just don't like it. That's it.
Thank you, Legislator Delio. Anyone else, please? Legislator Dibble?
Unmute, Gordy. Unmute.
I mean, you actually wanted to hear what I had to say?
Always.
Just kidding. Yeah, this is news to me. I didn't know that you were asked to take a look at this. So kind of caught me by surprise. All I've ever asked for is to see a draft. I'm not even talking about voting on anything, but I've asked to see a draft of a potential document or something like that. Something we could look at, something we could run best case, worst case scenarios past and see what the results would be. That's all I was ever asking for. So I don't think I've changed my mind on that. It may not be something we could do, but until we look, I don't know until I see it. So I don't know how much time is involved here, Matt, with doing this. That hasn't been said, and I certainly don't want to bury the management team in something that's going to take days and days, but I don't think that's the case. I think that I don't want to say how long it would take, but maybe my question is, how long would you think something like this would take? Is this a big imposition?
It's a resolution, honestly, that I would probably take the similar wording of the old resolution and I would add safeguards in, and I use the word safeguard to allow the county to have flexibility. I would work obviously with the county attorney and Jay on this to make sure that it looked appropriate and it allowed for appropriate safeguards so that if Stim 4 doesn't come, if the state ends up cutting 50% out and whatnot, that we are in a position that to share some of that. And I guess it's a valid question. We were talking to Shelley and some of you may be fielding more and more questions from whether it's constituents or towns and asking the questions. So it's a fair discussion to have. I can understand wanting to know if we can do it or not. I don't think it would take an exorbitant amount of time for us to craft something, but as far as information that's out there, there really isn't a lot. And it just speaks to what Andrew was saying. So I understand that there really, from the decision that was made before, to rescind a resolution that had us paying money that we certainly couldn't pay, there isn't a lot of new information out there. It's still as murky as ever. But if the sentiment of the majority, the consensus is, we want to put forth at least a framework or an idea of what could possibly be out there, we can do whatever you guys want. It wouldn't take that long.
Now, like I said, I'm not at all interested in writing a check we can't cash, and I have had my fill of documents that we have to push back from. I don't want to go there again, but I am interested in looking at a draft, at least that far. That's pretty much how I feel about it.
Madam Chair.
Go ahead, Legislator Yunker, please.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the idea that we should be looking at some what if scenarios. Maybe we don't want to spend a lot of time on a draft resolution, but trying to do the best we can to project what, after all the mandated services we have, after all our expenses, if some
You're muted again, Christian.
Sorry. Is it realistic to think that there will be, after every expense we have, every mandated service, that there's going to be anything left to share? It's to go through the exercise. It's a good faith effort to the towns and villages to show that, we do want to try to help them here. Maybe not spending time on the resolution, but that exercise that we know the unknowns, but it's more of the numbers than it is, drafting a resolution.
The one thing we so far have pretty much gotten confirmation from, particularly with our NISAC associates, is the quote unquote relief of the particular specific state mandates that we know have consistent and have routine mandated local shares. There does not seem to be any appetite from the second floor with regard to, relaxing or potentially changing or putting those on pause. The only benefit potentially right now is, as we referred to earlier, is if this FMAP money comes in that's already got our name on it, that 469,000 is a savings against that one line item in our weekly shares. And again, other than that, this is going to become basically a dollars in, dollars out, or just loss of dollars altogether proposition, it would seem like. And you're right with regard to what we don't know. Really is what is emanating literally from the state at this point, more so even than the Fed stim, is exactly how he's going to approach what very quickly can be two opportunities to cut state aid to all local governments and entities in the public sector, and how that will play out in terms of does he exempt anything? That's why I think there was small bit of good news with regard to the CHIPS funding, because that's not even funded technically by the general fund. That's a separate bond appropriation, if I remember correctly, right, Tim? And so technically that money's there. It's more a matter of the structure, the strategy he uses with regard to send the pain our way.
Thank you, Christian. Greg, Legislator Torrey, did I see your hand?
I kind of concur with what Christian and Gordy said. I'd like to show the town some kind of goodwill, but certainly, have the framework for to allow us, not commit ourselves to something that we can't pay. So I don't know how we do that. I think it's just more communication with the towns.
Thank you. Legislator Clattenburg, please.
I guess I'm really concerned with the way that we had, presumed to fund the jail, which was going to be over time. We were going to build on that sales tax growth, and we were counting on a growth level of 2% a year. And now we have a 36% drop. So I think we need to fundamentally answer the question of how we're going to fund a jail. and stay within a property tax cap before we work on a framework for sales tax or revenue sharing distribution. Because we have obligations in the county that we have to meet. And this is going to be very, very difficult. And I have no ill will towards the towns. I've said it numerous times. I have nothing but sympathy for what their budgets are experiencing right now, because we are experiencing the exact same thing. So I am very concerned with our ability to move forward and bond out $50, $60 million for a jail at this time.
Thank you, Legislator Clattenburg. Anyone else? So from my view, I'm looking for a balance point where we would have a better understanding of what it is that we know before any type of decision could be made. We put forward these 4 units of measure that we were going to look to before we could make any determination on a revenue sharing for the second quarter. And I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that here on the legislature. We haven't had the opportunity to be together like this, to have this conversation in quite a while. And so here we are together having this discussion for the first time in almost 3 months. I appreciate that very much. So what I'm hearing right now is that there is still more to be learned, more to understand before any type of decisions can be made. Mandated services are not relaxed. We have taken incredible steps in our government to reduce our spending, to pause and halt our capital projects, to freeze and furlough positions here in the county. And those are not easy things to do. Having the opportunity to have CHIPS projects roll forward, that is again brand new this week. And so that provides some bit of a bright spot for folks to beginning to be active in their roles again in government. At this point, I believe that we cannot make a decision, but it is a conversation that we have pledged ourselves to, that there will be an intent to share. And we need to continue to have this conversation in public so that our partners understand that it is occurring and it is happening. Jay, is there another on your list?
Yes, ma'am. Outside agencies. We basically, at this point in time, and again, excuse me, the one entity that we really don't put into this mix in terms of doing anything other than the fact that they've already been told and understand they aren't getting any more money is the Chamber of Commerce as far as the Tourism Promotion Agency. We started out at $1.2 million, including them. We've paid out about $675,000, including from bed tax proceeds, what we had, which was about $110,000. At this present time, we have still about $279,000. We have not at this point released with regard to any of the agreements and any of the other contracts, or in some cases, we don't even have contracts with one agency, but we've been a legacy funder for a considerable amount of time. So the consideration is what it is, and Kevin, you did some research and also looked at some verbiage with regard to what we can do with regard to any of that. In this case, the dollar amount is about $279,000, as to whether or not just keeping them on hold, which is where we are right now, with some of the structured payments that we make in some cases on a monthly basis or in somewhat larger chunks. You know, what our options are there, Kevin, and what all would the legislature need to do if we need to take that 279 or a good portion of it and basically just keep it in our own coffers. So, Kevin, the floor is yours.
Yes, I sent out an email earlier today, and I went through the list of agencies that still are owed money and that might potentially be able to put their payments on hold. And the bottom line is, if we have an agreement with somebody and no out clause, then the only way that we can put anything on hold is if the other side agreed to put it on hold, in essence, agreed to terminate their agreement. Any two parties can always change the agreement at any time if they mutually agree. So for one of the first one on the list, the GoArt, I put together a proposed agreement terminating the agreement that we had and a resolution to adopt that agreement. But again, we would not be able to go through with that unless the GoArt was willing to do that. The same thing would be true of the chamber with regard to the Business Educational Alliance. We'd have to go through the same procedure. And also the Economic Development Center, if we were going to ask them to hold any of their payments, we would also have to go through the same procedure. I just did it for one as an example. Obviously, if you decided to do it for 1, 2, or 3 of those, I could draft up the agreements that would be basically using the same format. Now, the other things I took a look at, for example, the cooperative extension, that has a law that says, you cannot get out of those agreements unless you give 6 months prior notice. So we're almost to the 6 months now anyway, so we could not do anything with that by law this year. Even if the two parties agreed, as I said there, we can't overrule county law, even if we agreed. So the cooperative extension, there's nothing that can be done legally until the end of the year. A couple of the agreements were put tabled. So if we don't have the agreement, you just don't enter the agreement. Mercy Flight, and there was one other that was tabled there. So those two that were tabled, we just could keep them on the table. We have no agreement. You don't have to make the payments. Let's see, the Ag Society was one that was tabled. And looking at the contract, most of their payments is for the fair, which they're not going to have.
Right.
So it's unlikely that they're going to be asking for any money anyways. As Jay said, with regard to the bed tax, that was set up specifically to go to tourism. So we can't really undo that. We used the law to set that up for the bed tax. That was already allocated to that. So for this year, I don't think there's anything we could do with regard to that.
But there again, just to be clear, there's no county funds, not even the 110,000 was based on December through, I believe, February, Scott, payments that came from the hoteliers. So there has still not been, since way back when it first came into play, not a county penny has ever been spent to fund the tourism promotion agency.
Right. Correct. That's not something that we have an out clause is needed because it doesn't come from our budget.
Is it true that there's like stipulations on how that money gets spent anyway? It needs to be somewhat touristy?
95% goes to the designated tourism promotion agency, and you have a separate agreement for that piece. The other 5% goes to the county treasurer's office for the purposes of the monitoring and the collections and the integrity and the auditing of those proceeds.
No, but I'm talking about the proceeds altogether. If we could get out of the agreement, or if we didn't give them as much as we used to, or we can't just use those funds anywhere we want. We have to use those funds for particular things. Is that correct?
You have to go back and change the local law and get state legislative approval to do same, because that's part and parcel of how we have the approval even to have a bed tax from the mid-90s. It's not just a local resolution, Andrew. It would involve state legislation and then bringing back new legislation and a new profile as to what you would do with those proceeds.
Right. As I was saying, that the law has set us up that way. It's set up so that we can use it for that purpose only. If we don't want to raise that money, we'd have to go back and change that. So to answer your question, we can't use it for anything else.
No question.
Go ahead, Christian.
So just an example, one of the larger ones, cooperative extension, Kevin, you mentioned that it's by law, we have to pay that, and we have to give them 6 months notice. What if we did have an agreement with them, some sort of separate agreement that, hey, look, if you take less this year, we will give you something next year at some other reduced cost. Can we make an agreement like that outside of the law? Or because that's a big payment coming up.
I'd have to let
you
Kevin answer
terminate
that.
the agreement. I assume if you know, they agreed to take less, we could do that. You know, we can always rewrite any of the agreements if they agree to it. We just can't do it by termination. But yeah, to answer your question, yes, we could change that agreement. We can't terminate it, but we could change it if they.
And
It might be a better option than them, you know, if they'll reduce it then versus 0 next year potentially, you know, if you don't want to.
And for those entities, most of these entities, again, pretty much with the exception of the chamber because of tourism promotion and bed tax, the annual budget process has been our opportunity and method to make general reductions, typically by a percentage across the board to almost all of these agencies over time, which is, and I think we showed you a history by each of the agencies, what we've been paying. But again, it was always done at the annual budget time, not necessarily by part of a going into the agreement, slicing and dicing or changing it. So, you know, that is that other opportunity timeline wise, Christian, to make those adjustments also.
Yeah, my task there was just to see if we wanted to get out of these agreements during this 2020, how could we be able to do it? And that's why I've outlined those things to you. If you wanted to do it before the next budget year, as Jay's saying, when it's usually taken up, these are the ways you could do it during the 2020 year, which basically amounts to the other parties would have to agree.
The only one that probably is not, is somewhat, excuse me, sacrosanct is the General Tennessee Regional Planning Council, because that is actually a formulaic organization agreement that has us making the contributions that we do. So it would be, if for some reason we decided to change that, we would probably be abrogating that agreement on our participation in it. With regard to how that has been set up, that amount, I believe, has been the same for a number of years. But it is one of those that's somewhat idiosyncratic with regard to what we would do if we had to put this on that same list of, let's take a 10 or 15% reduction. This number is part of a formula that we and they have a longstanding agreement to honor that piece of it.
Jay, I believe that's all been paid for this year anyhow.
Yes, it has.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I didn't put that on there because it's all been paid. And my understanding is you're not interested, if you could, is, you know, clawing back any money from anybody that's already been paid.
I have a comment or question also. I think this discussion is good. It's something we have to have. But with all the unknowns out there still, the stimulus and the governor and everything else, are we at a point where we need to take action at this time on this? Or should we have some time to say, let's wait to see, you know, a couple months to see where we are with our budget and what comes in before we take any action, before we start reaching out to these agencies and try to take some action with regards to them?
Scott, some payments are coming due, Scott, correct?
Right.
Yeah, some of these payments we pay every month. Like the GCEDC, that's monthly. And there's other agencies we pay monthly. There are some that we pay quarterly and some we pay annually. So, but the ones that are monthly, if you want them stopped before July, we would need to know that now.
Because we could just stop paying them, right, for now?
I believe that would take legislative action to do.
Yeah, Scott would have to have authority. Right now, Scott has authority you have all agreed for Scott to pay these. So Scott has to pay them unless we do something telling him not to pay them. More or less like we did with the distribution. He had authority to pay the distribution. We had to tell him to stop paying those distribution payments. So he affirmatively,
Understood.
you know, stops them.
That's what we're here for.
So, and we understand that these are contracts versus resolutions. And so
Correct.
there is a significant legal difference in those two. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any other?
What to ask, you know, if we're going to cut them, we don't know how much do we want to cut them even.
That's correct. Again, in some cases, you're talking, you know, very small amounts of money. Like I said, we've already paid out about 575 to all the other agencies, to that list of agencies, not including the 110 that went to Chamber for the Tourism Promotion Agency. And so again, we have about 279 left that we have not made a payment, made structural payments to. Some of them, the largest ones being again the EDC and the balance on cooperative extension. The rest of these are all fairly small amounts in toto, but also what it is that's still outstanding in terms of their potential payments, or that we haven't paid anything yet, because it's like with the Ag Society, we make a one payment once the fair is done and the premiums list is presented to us. And the same thing with the Business Education Alliance. Arts Council is strictly on the notion of the contract itself says if there's a 4th of July picnic at the park, we help pay for that. That was something that was done years ago, because again, otherwise just making a payment to them would have been considered a gift of taxpayers' money, which is illegal. Well, that's why there is a specific program funded through the Arts Council that, again, if that activity doesn't occur, that ostensibly, but I'll defer to Kevin, would indicate that we wouldn't make that payment if there's not going to be a picnic in the park on July 4th.
I don't believe there is going to be a picnic in the park. I think that is.
That's been canceled.
So right there, technically, we would, my saying, again, I defer to Kevin, that could be a very simple statement to Greg saying that without that activity, our contract at this point is void.
Actually, if I could, real quick, there was 2 things I believe on that one, Jay. I think there was, they split their monies up between some of it's picnic in the park and some of it's for other programming.
You're right. I'm sorry.
So,
That's right. I don't have the agreement in front of me.
So I would ask if there's an appetite with the legislators to hold on any of the outside agency remaining payments for the month of June and July until we have better clarity on what's coming with a federal stimulus payment or further understanding of our sales tax and whatever the state would like to do in regards to reducing other revenues.
That would be my opinion. Yes. I'm not sure how we could treat them any differently than we treated the towns in terms of doing all we can to say, hey, we don't know what's going on. We have to avoid this payment until we know where we're at.
I agree. It's prudent to do so. We know we're taking losses. We'll take our chances legally with the contracts, but we need to stop payments.
How prepared are these agencies? I mean, I assume that they know possible cuts are coming. Is there, if it's a back and forth conversation in terms of what budgets can be cut, do they have specific numbers in mind that they can, absolutely cut in kind of a good faith with us, or?
The money that we provide in most cases, Chad, is literally to their general operating budget. So they would then make the adjustments to live to fight another day, depending on what we wouldn't be sending them, say in the next 2 months, structural monthly payments kind of situation.
Which is kind of what we need them to do right now, right?
Yes, sir.
So those folks who have liaison responsibilities to the group on here that would be having their payments held, say in June and July, Legislator Mayha, I believe that you had a conversation with one of your.
Yes, the cooperative extension, a number of times I told them that probably they're going to have a reduction in their revenue, and they seem to kind of expect that. But I think if we're going to do this, we should give them as much notice as we can, just to let them know that it's our intent until we know more, whether they're going to withhold the next 2 months revenue.
I mean, we can certainly put together a letter to all of them, and put it out of here this week, indicating that is the consensus of the legislature, that this is where we find ourselves with these next two, with this next potential month or 2 or 3 payments. For those who are getting those kind of payments, again, we've already paid Soil and Water their entire amount, so it would be everybody else. And we already know that the chamber has indicated they also know they're not getting another dime, because we haven't seen a bed tax payment, or hardly anything, I would imagine, since that payment at that represented their proceeds through February, right, Scott?
That is correct.
Yeah. And again, Tom and Kelly basically told me a month and a half ago, we don't expect anything, so we're just going to try to do what we can with our I Love New York money, and what it is that they already had put in the plan that was within their budget of about that $110,000.
They can sell that I Love New York sign.
Legislator Plattenberg, please.
Well, I just have a concern that, you know, the big dollars have already gone out. And we're going to be really hurting the small ones like the Howland office and those smaller things that we fund, you know, really operationally a small amount, but to them it's big dollars seeing that they've been closed for all this time, and it's really going to hurt them. And so I was of the opinion that if we were going to cut everybody by like 20% across the board, but this was my fear that some people were going to get all their money and some people were going to get none of their money. And so I would not support this.
Any other legislators care to weigh in, please?
It'll probably be more disruptive than it really helps us, but it sends the message, you know, with what we're doing with the towns and villages. So, but I think it's gonna be more disruptive to these agencies than any benefit we'll see out of it.
Well, again, this
Well,
is
what
the
if-
problem. We worry more about the towns and villages than we do our own obligations to as the county. That's my issue across the board.
Well, if we don't want to stop payments, why don't we just make sure we at least take a 20% haircut off any payments to go out as a, you know, a compliment to versus one or the other. Just start there.
I would be okay with, because I have let them know that there'd probably be some cuts, but to cut them 100% in 1 month, it'd just be very hard. So if you guys want to propose 20%, that's something I could agree with. And I would just suggest that as we go forward, when it comes time to renew different contracts, that we put in some kind of out clause with regarding if another pandemic or some kind of situation like this should hit a second time around, so that there's an out clause for that that situation where we never thought we'd ever have to face, but should this come up again, we would be able to act on those.
Right, Kevin?
I would agree that we have learned an awful lot about the fact that there are surprises that are around the corner that we are not prepared for.
Is Christian's suggestion something you folks would like us to, shall we say, implement?
I'm not even sure that it's worth it, right? Look, what's the dollar amount?
I'll take about 20% of a $279,000 or thereabouts.
So 70 grand or whatever. I don't know. I don't like the message it sends. So I don't support it, but.
Well, you don't have to make a decision right at this moment. It's up to you folks. We are here to do what you wish.
I think we should take time and look at Kevin's email and try to digest what he has in there.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay, that's fine.
So
Other
I'm
items.
I'm to continue paying as they come to my office?
I don't think you're going to see any, Kevin, Scott, for the next week or so. I think they're sitting over here.
I think Scott does have some over
Okay.
there.
I know we've got two here.
You're muted, Scott.
Which ones have you got,
Sorry.
Scott?
I know monthly we receive GC, EDC. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure what else we get directly. Rochester Regional Transit, I don't know about that one.
That's not even in this. Excuse me. You're talking about the proceeds that come from the mortgage tax, right, Scott?
Yeah.
That's a
I guess
totally
so.
different. That's a totally different animal.
Okay.
That's not on here. I don't believe. Again, I believe statutorily, that is a total. you'd have to totally reconstitute how that whole thing is set up with local law, state legislation to not fund what comes out of the mortgage tax for that. The fact that there is a small contribution that goes to that operation, that's different, but not the major money that comes because it's set up statutorily, because we are part of a regional transportation authority.
I know we pay them quarterly. I forget how much we give them quarterly, but we do give them money quarterly. So I was just wondering if I was to continue that as well or what. So what about GCEDC? If I get their bill, do I just hold on to it? Pay it? I don't know.
I think that there is not a consensus here in this meeting at this committee of the whole right now. So,
well, I'll try to hold it as long as I can.
I think
And then I don't want to get shot for asking this question, but I still have the final payment to make for GCC. It's over $1 million.
That's towards their operating budget, correct, Scott?
Yes.
And again, I think
That already went out last month, Scott.
That was the first one. I got one more that goes out in July.
well, then we're obligated to that. Is that not correct?
That's and Kevin, you did some of the research also based on the statutory nature of how we set up GCC, how we've made the payments, and what the state requirements are as far as the support by the host / sponsor, and what happens if that is reneged on, what the state could do with regard to taking that formula and changing it radically, and then imposing on us other potential costs that we certainly don't even have. You know, that's $1 million, a couple $1 million shift if we wanted to do something totally different. Again,
There's
based
a lot
on the
of triggers
research.
with that.
Say that again.
There's a lot of triggers with that we've talked about a little bit.
Yeah, section 6400 of the state education law.
Yeah, we
Scott, you're
couldn't
muted
do
again,
that
Scott.
we couldn't do that unilaterally, no.
That's fine. I'll make the payment.
Okay. Anything else on that particular topic, Madam Chairperson?
I don't think so. I think that it's just really important that we had this discussion together, that folks can understand that we don't have any more information. We are all struggling with the same situation as the rest of the governments that we partner with, both to, you know, higher levels of government and lower levels of government. It is just a very uncertain and trying time, and there is no good answer anywhere. But I would say that this discussion is important to our ability to and to learn what it is we don't know and have yet to know before we can make any good decisions.
Two other items very quickly.
Go ahead.
Back to the theme of, which we've never wavered from, is water pays for water. And adjustments that we would make with regard to those who have signed or not signed agreements. The idea is still focused on, as you know, we got the Monroe County Water Authority to do a $20 million obligation for us, or thereabouts. I might be right, a little off on the number. But again, the idea is that is still the base philosophy and why the rates are where they are. The surcharge is the way it is. And we are still moving forward in our phase 2 of that, correct, Tim?
Yes, sir. We just actually today I submitted a $4.7 million reimbursement request to Monroe County to make us whole on the money that we spent, we set aside from our infrastructure reserve. So hopefully we'll have that back in the next week or two. That'll make Scott a little more flush with cash. And construction is underway on Chestnut Ridge Road, Valence Road, and pump stations. So we're full speed ahead.
Okay. And then last but not least, New York State Retirement System. As you noticed, there was a recent addition that I believe passed the legislature, signed by the governor, to deal with payments from the state retirement system for persons in the retirement system who are deceased by virtue of the COVID-19 illness. There's not a way at this point, as we understand it, to determine what that may have as an impact. Understand that we were told by the state comptroller a few weeks ago in a conference call with NISAC that he could be looking at an increase in the rates sort of uniformly to try to keep the state system funded as well as it is, which at that time was about a 95% of actual obligations of the total retirement system, keeping that in play. As the sole trustee, he has that unique and unilateral opportunity to make those adjustments and changes. At the time when he was on the conference call with us, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shelley, he actually had not had a serious downturn in the investment portfolio or quote unquote loss at that time. It's now been about 6 weeks since then. And again, we were told by NISAC that we could expect something akin to, if all these other negative metrics keep going down, something akin to a 20% a change in the assessment per employee, and then our employer obligation going into the payments that would be coming for the 2021 budget. But again, there's no exact science or commitment that the comptroller has yet put out there. On a side note, we did see also, we just got our what's likely to be our tax cap percentage for the 2021 budget, which the baseline is about a 1.5% growth factor. That is it. Then obviously the formula has other pieces in it. So that already is about 0.5% less than what we did with the 2020 budget, as far as the ability to use some of the proceeds from the property tax and not create a problem situation where you would have to do a tax cap override, or where we actually would potentially see something akin to, I think it was about a $700,000 delta that we were able to utilize in the 2020 budget as far as staying under the tax cap. So again, that information also has gotten a little bit more, I guess, determinative, but only because obviously the economy itself is changing and is going down. And again, they have benchmarks upon which a date is set that becomes that base factor. And right now it looks like it's going to be that 1.5%. And then we make adjustments for pilots and make adjustments for other real growth, whether or not that is not subject to the limitation.
Question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jay, I know like before, if we went over the tax cap, there were triggers that automatically cut our reimbursements. Has there been talk about that being suspended then?
The request has been made. I guess the silence has been deafening, John, with regard to the state of New York.
Thanks, Jay.
Like you say, you can't make it up, John.
I wouldn't count on it, John.
That was my list, Shelley.
I have to say that's the list, I think, that we have covered an awful lot of ground tonight and had a full discussion with everyone. Are there any other comments or questions back to our manager's office and budget director for further comments or questions? I am seeing none. So thank you everyone for your participation this evening, and I would ask for a motion to adjourn. I have a motion from Legislator Clattenburg and a second from Legislator Klotzbach. Clerk, would you like to call the roll?
Legislator Klotzbach,
Yes.
Yunker,
Yes.
Dibble,
Yes.
Young,
Yes.
Stein,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
Velio,
Yes.
Mattenberg,
Yes.
Maha.
Yes.
We stand adjourned. Thank you very much, and we will see you Monday at public service. Thank you.
Happy Father's Day to all those appropriately on this call.